No, it's him.
It actually was a sacrifice to come here this morning because there was a topic I really wanted to go to, a shiur in Chicago, given right now, on the 7 no-hate laws. And I actually wanted to go to that shiur. I spoke to other people about it, and I was planning on going on it, but Rabbi Boomer asked me to say a shiur, so I came here this morning. Something that inspires me sometimes to this topic is recently something happened, and numerous times in my life, I was waiting for something for years, and it didn't happen. I was waiting for something in the mail. I thought I'd have to go to court. I thought I'd have to get a lawyer. I couldn't get a lawyer. I had to fight it myself. Then I got a letter in the mail after 3 years of working on it. They gave it to me, no problem. They said I don't need to prove anything. They gave it to me, no problem. And when I got that, my wife was saying, "You're never gonna get it." And then all of a sudden it came in the mail, no problem. I thought I'd have to have a hearing, nothing. They said, "You got it, we got it." They took my story and they gave it to me. Many times things happen to us that are way never going to happen. Okay, Donald Trump winning the election, and all of a sudden we expected things to be one way, and they're going to remain this way forever. And then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. That's it. Gilad Shalit gets out of prisoner, and then the reaction is always it like shakes my world. All the other things on your list that are never going to happen. Who said they're never going to happen? Who said that's going to happen? And that's something that inspires me to think about Moshiach. What are you going to do when the thing that you think is not going to happen, it's going to happen? It's the same feeling you get when you see these things happen. I know my wife has a cousin who was married for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years without kids. And then they had two kids after that. Wow. After 30 years.
Wow.
So that is so all the friends already had grandchildren. So all these when these things happen, that's it. Whatever's on your list could be blown off. So that's one of the things I think about. Okay, we're going to talk about here Moshiach. I really want to go through the Rambam. I brought a couple copies of the Rambam Hilchos. The only one who really codifies Moshiach. It's not really in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not really the only person who talks about Mashiach really is the Rambam. The Rambam, in his book of Yad Chazaka, which are all the laws of the Torah, the last chapter of his whole entire book, of all the books, is Mashiach. That's where he ends off the Rambam, and he's really the only one who codifies it. I have a few copies over here I could give out. And here we go. 1 second. It's this one. Okay, about 2 or 3. Okay, we have a few more. There we go. A few more. Okay, so the first thing the Rambam says, I'm not going with the first part inside, but the Rambam says that the concept of Mashiach is something which is written in the Torah. Where does it say in the Torah that Mashiach is going to come? Most people have a hard time answering that question. Even the Rambam brings many sources in the Torah that says Mashiach is going to come. Where does it say in the Torah that Mashiach is going to come?
By Yaakov before he dies.
Yaakov. Okay, this last week's parasha, Yaakov says, "Come and gather around, and I will tell you what happens in the end of days." Okay, very good. Then he doesn't say.
Blessing to Yehuda.
What did it say?
Blessing, Yaakov's blessing is past parsha to Yehuda.
What was the blessing?
Right. That about the ruling till Sheila comes.
Oh, very good.
Sheila.
The Yasser Shavim Yehuda. There's always going to be a ruler from Shev Yehuda.
And Sheila is that.
Okay, there we go. That's part. Maybe it alludes to Mashiach. Any other place the Torah says Mashiach?
Doesn't matter.
Devorim 30.
Devarim 30. There we go. Someone cheated over here. The parsha that we read on Tisha B'Av, it's very open. Hashem says that you're going to go ahead and be scattered to all four corners of the world. And then Hashem says, at the end of the days, you're going to go ahead and do tshuva. And you're going to search for Hashem. You're going to find Hashem with all your heart and all your soul. And Hashem is going to go ahead and return your captives and return to Israel. And the relationship is going to return the way it was in the beginning. That is the most open proof. Most people don't think of that one. Where else does it talk about Mashiach? By Bilam. By Bilam, it talks about Mashiach over there. He says all the nations are going to be destroyed. Amalek's the first one. Bilam talks about it, that he sees the prophecy of the days of Mashiach. I see it is near, but it's not in the future. Okay. I want to ask a few questions.
There's an argument about that one.
What?
There's an argument about that one.
Well, what is referring to?
Bilam's, whether or not it's the end of days or it's David HaMelech.
David HaMelech. Okay. Okay.
In fact, all of them, there's that argument.
Okay. And it talks about it also here. Okay. I want to ask a question. The question I want to ask is, we find by Mashiach, every time we talk about Mashiach, it's one mess after another. Okay? One mess after another. Let's just talk a little bit how the messes we see in Mashiach. Okay? The first mess we see is David HaMelech. Even before David HaMelech, Mashiach comes from Lot. Okay? Lot's daughters being together with their father, that was one mess, and that led to Moab, which led to Rus, which led to David HaMelech. And then David HaMelech himself, people thought that he was born from a legal relationship. David HaMelech himself went from one mess to the next. His whole life was very shady. People thought him and his wife was an Isser, also seemed to be prohibition. One mess after another, that's David HaMelech. And Lot, David HaMelech, everything about Mashiach comes from one mess after another. Nothing about it seems to be coming straight. Look at Yehuda. Yehuda's Mashiach comes from. Yehuda, the story with Tamar.
Yes.
Okay, again another mess. It goes from one mess after another, that leads to Mashiach. It's unbelievable. Okay. Let's take a look over here at the Rambam, who talks about how we're going to know who Mashiach is. Let's take a look at the Rambam here. It's going to be Gimel, page 3 out of 5 in your book. Page 3. If you don't have one, if you don't have nothing, just listen in. It says in the Rambam, a person shouldn't think, a person shouldn't think that the king of Mashiach needs to do mosim, needs to do new miracles, things that have never happened before, or like Tchias HaMesa. It's not true. Rabbi Kiva was one of the great sages, and he thought that Bar Kochba was the king of Mashiach. Okay? And many people in the generation, all the sages of generation, considered him to be the Mashiach. Until he was killed because of their sins. That's another discussion. Once he was killed, they realized he was not Mashiach. Okay. So he says, so the Rambam says, you see from over here, that Mashiach, the person of Mashiach, does not have to stand up and do any proofs. Then the Rambam says, obviously Mashiach can't be a person who is going to take away or add to laws of the Torah. So with that, he is excluding certain people from being Mashiach. Okay, so now, the question is, how do you know someone is Mashiach if they don't have to do any miracles? That's the Rambam holds. You don't have to do any miracles. How do you know how many people have come along and claimed to be Mashiach? In recent history, how many people? Quite a few. Okay? Usually when a person says, I'm Mashiach, the other guy says, no, I am. You know? That's the way it works. So, you can't be. I remember in camp they did a skit. Someone there when I go home, a guy said, God spoke to me yesterday, he told me I'm the Messiah. So the guy turns around and he says, I did not! So how do you know someone's Mashiach if you don't have to prove it? You don't have to prove it. Let's look at the next Rambam. The Rambam says, if Yaman Melech, if a king arises from the house of David, okay, who learns Torah, v'osek b'mitzvahs, and he does mitzvahs, kedavid aviv, like David his forefather, okay, k'fi Torah shebeksav, Torah shebapeh, and Torah shebeksav and Torah shebapeh, v'yichayv kol Yisrael leilech ba, and he gets the whole entire Jewish people to walk in the ways of Torah. So basically, a special person starts learning Torah and teaching Torah, and then slowly people begin to follow him, okay, and they begin to strengthen themselves in Torah. Okay? Then he fights wars of Hashem. Okay? He fights wars of Hashem. That means he stands up for the honor of Hashem. Harei zeh b'cheska shehu Mashiach. You could assume he's Mashiach. That's what Rambam says. A person is just learning Torah, teaching Torah, and the world is following him and strengthening the Torah. You could assume he's Mashiach. This is something I want us to get a very fascinating idea. Okay? Someone asked me this question. How do you know if someone's a phony or real? Okay? How do you know if someone's a phony or real? Maybe a certain rabbi is a phony. How do you know if someone's a phony or real? Okay? Do we know in heaven what Hashem thinks of us? Do we know? So here's the concept. Concept is that you see from here in the Rambam, and this is really something which is brought in halacha all the time, is that we don't have nevuah anymore nowadays. We don't have prophecy nowadays. The only thing we have nowadays which is similar to prophecy is the whole Jewish nation's intuition. That's like prophecy. Okay? Let's give an example. Okay? If the whole entire Jewish nation, for example, today, we know when Hasidus started, there was a huge fight. Many people thought Hasidus were another form of Christianity. And it was a huge, huge fight. Okay? What do we know Hashem today holds of Hasidus? We know that the Jewish people as a whole accepted Hasidus. That's what happened. Accepted them. Even if it's not our path, they've been accepted. And the Jewish people as a whole is the only form of prophecy we have nowadays. What the Jewish people do as a whole, that we know Hashem holds the same way. Okay? And what is fascinating is nowadays, people ask sometimes, who decides who's the leaders, the biggest rabbis of the generation? Who decides who the leaders are? Moshe Feinstein, who decides these people? Okay? Their answer is there's no vote, there's no campaign. Okay? The Jewish people's intuition goes ahead and picks somebody. And we know from here, the Rambam says this, but we see this, that the only connection we have to Hashem, direct of what Hashem wants of us, is when the whole Jewish people accept something. That's it. The whole Jewish people accept something, that means that's what Hashem wanted. That's it. Even if it was controversial at a time. For example, someone told me that there are those who say the Zohar might not be true. Maybe it was dug up, it was someone else, it wasn't. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have time for that. The whole entire Jewish nation accepted the Zohar. It's coming from Hashem Baruch Chai. We are not dumb. Even if we do things that don't make sense. In Chazal they say, in Halacha it says, a lot of times it says, really Halacha should be this way. But the Jewish people, no one does this. And it says Halacha. And therefore, the Jewish people's intuition knows better than us. It's what it says in Halacha there. And therefore, if we're not Nevi'im, our intuition, we do naturally, that's like Nevi'us. That's like a Navi. That's like a Navi. And we do naturally, that is the Hashem's will. So the same concept applies over here. The Rambam says, just the fact that the Jewish people, you can fool some of the people part of the time, you can't fool the Jewish nation. If the Jewish nation is accepting somebody completely, and the Jewish nation follows this person, you could go ahead and assume him to be Mashiach. He's the one who Hashem chose as well. Okay, let's continue the Rambam. He says, V'im also v'itzliach, if he goes ahead and he succeeds, Obana hamigdash b'makaymei, he builds the temple in its place, the kavas nidchei Yisrael, and he gathers those who are spread out. Harei zeh Mashiach bevadai, you could consider it to be definitely Mashiach. V'yisakin as olam kula avda Hashem b'yachad, he's going to go ahead and join the whole entire world to serve Hashem together. Ki oz echbaitz el amim safa brura likrois kulam b'shem Hashem. He will transform the people to a pure language, and they will call upon the name of Hashem. Avdai she seicham echad, and to serve him with one purpose. Okay, he says if this person doesn't succeed, or he's killed, then you know that he is not Moshiach. Okay, and then he goes right into Yashka. Right over here. He goes right into Yashka. Something what's going on at current events. He goes into Yashka, and he says this person, he was killed at the end. Obviously, even though some people thought he was Mashiach, obviously he was not Mashiach. And then he goes ahead and talks about Yashka a little bit. Okay. So that's the first piece of Rambam. That what's going to happen is Mashiach coming is going to be someone that the Jewish people is going to follow. I want to point out one other point there. This is a good point. Is there anything happening right now in 2018 that points that shows that Mashiach is on its way? What is happening right now? I want to point out 3 or 4 things happening right now that open us up a little bit. Let's see.
Jerusalem is the capital, acknowledged as the capital.
Jerusalem is being acknowledged as being the capital of Israel. I have to appreciate that. That is pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. That seems to be a step in the right direction. Anything else? Victor?
Yes.
iPhone. Yes, why iPhones?
That it brings unity to the world.
That people have
can
ability to be more interconnected.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we can expand on that one. That's interesting. It's not so clear exactly what to do with Mashiach. That's a good one. Daniel Tovia.
I think, I could be wrong, but have we passed the tipping point where there's more Jews in Eretz Yisrael than there are in the rest of the world?
Oh, that's a very good point. We're about the tipping point, which Chazal, that's a very significant point. All the laws of Israel, a lot of them depend not so much on Mashiach being there, but more on the majority of the Jewish people. So you see the concept of the majority of the Jewish people, they decide. Unbelievable, a lot of the laws, and we're almost at the tipping point. Very good. What's your idea?
Donald Trump is fighting the Arabs.
Donald Trump is fighting the Arabs. Okay, a little bit. Okay.
This might be a stretch, but it's possible as a tool of Moshiach, some type of tool of
Okay.
preparation for a big event.
What?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to make out of that one. That went over my head. I'm sorry, that went over my head. I'm not going to get into that one. That was down over my head. Please, so.
And it looks like that all the nations uniting against Israel, everything surrounding Israel is trying to fight us. It's kind of like the war looming. There's something going on.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to throw a few more things. Okay, a few more things like this. There's a very fascinating thing I heard from the name of Victor Miller, and I think a lot of others say it. Very fascinating thing is that we find in the Torah a little bit of a scary thing also. Some people don't like it, but too bad. We find in the Torah that there are many different midrashim that give a description of Mashiach coming and with going on the eagle's wings, and all the synagogues are going to pick up and fly to Israel with people inside them, and there's all these types of midrashim. Okay, and then you find other places that seem to describe it more of a natural course. So he said a chiddush. He said a thing. He said that it's something like a more like a political uprising and something like that. So he said something interesting. He said that if Mashiach comes, it could come in 2 ways. The Torah says that. It says in the Haftarah, be'ito v'cheshana. Either come in its right time or it could come early. So he says if Mashiach comes in its right time, that means the last time it could come, the year 6000. So then it's going to come in more of a natural way. People are going to take airplanes to get there. It'll come more of a natural way. If it comes early, it's going to come in more of a miraculous way. That's what he says. So the concept is, the Chavetz Chaim talks about this a little bit, the concept is as you get closer to the year 6000, the process is beginning naturally. Of course, we could stop it short and go on a miracle, but it could go, if it comes early, it comes out with a shofar and the whole world finds out like that. If not, it could be a text message, and it could come on an airplane. So as things are getting closer, the things that are described to happen, let's give a couple examples. It says when Moshiach comes, there's going to be no pain during childbirth. Okay? No pain during childbirth. Okay? But as they're getting closer, perhaps naturally, we have many women, I don't know, I know someone said had a baby, he said his wife was screaming and everyone else was quiet. So he asked the nurse what's happening. He says, well, you're the only one without a shot. You're the only one who's having a shot. Didn't have a shot. So people can have babies without pain. This is something that's happening now. So the concept over here is, as we're getting closer, certain things are happening naturally. I'll throw out even another thing. Another thing is that Hillary Clinton tried to be president. What does that have to do with Mashiach? It says when Mashiach comes, the imbalance of men and women comes from the sin of the Eitz Hadas, the sin of the Garden of Eden. And Mashiach comes, they're going to be rebalanced. And as we're getting closer to Mashiach, I believe the feminist movement has to do with Mashiach. Women are feeling misplaced because they are turning more into a more dominant people. And therefore, they are feeling misplaced. Before they were very happy with their position, because that's the way they felt. But now, they're feeling mistreated, misplaced, because they're really changing. They're really changing. And this is coming closer to the Mashiach era. They're really changing, and therefore they want to be treated differently. This perhaps, and now they want to be the president. 200 years ago, they weren't interested in such nonsense. They weren't interested in nonsense. They didn't want that. But now, as you're coming closer to Mashiach, you're becoming more balanced. Yes?
Something like in North Korea could be a sign of Moshiach, like a big war.
A big war. Okay. There is such a concept that the last war is going to be a very quick war. So there is such a concept with nuclear, possibility of nuclear. But that's the Jewish people coming to Israel. That actually is a good point. Jewish people coming to Israel. That's also something that's happening naturally. Naturally, it's happening. Okay? I want to say something interesting. It says that, when Hashem promised not to bring a Mabul, I heard a new explanation. Hashem promised not to bring a Mabul. What he went ahead and he said is we have a concept that we see nowadays, okay? Someone asked me this question. He said, why is it that on Yom Kippur, all of a sudden, in Buffalo Grove, thousands of people get out of their houses and they come to Shul. They come to Shul. And then Yom Kippur is over. It's over. Okay, go back into their cave. It's over. And it's not like there's major campaigns going on. Is there major Yom Kippur campaigns? No, there's no major Yom Kippur campaigns. I said, is there? These guys like, what is up with that? What's up with that? What is going on here? And you don't understand how many millions of dollars is made. We don't tap into it enough in the shul here. But millions of dollars are made because this ridiculous urge that pops into people's head that they have to go to Shul Yom Kippur. They have to connect to Hashem and Yom Kippur. There are people that are raking in millions. In this Chicago, millions of dollars are made on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur every single year for this unexplainable urge that people have to come to Shul. Is that true? Is there any way to explain that? Is there any way to explain that? It's absolute nonsense. It's unbelievable. It happens every single year for hundreds of years. Unbelievable. Maybe some people say it's getting weaker. Maybe it is getting weaker, but still, it's unexplainable. Unexplainable. So, I heard an explanation. Rav Moshe, I think that this has to do with Mashiach in the two ways it can come. Rav Moshe Wolfson says that there's a custom on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur that the Chazan says the word Hamelech, starts the first by davening from his seat. He says it from his seat. It's a funny thing in the big shul. You don't feel it so much in here, but in the big shul, all of a sudden you hear him in the back. Someone saying Hamelech. The Chazan starts from his seat and then he walks up to the front. That's the custom of every place I've been to. He says the reason for this custom is because to show that in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is different than the rest of the year. And in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Hashem comes to us. Normally we have to go to Hashem. Hashem comes to us. So he doesn't walk up to the front. He sits in the seat. He says, Hamelech, he's right here. He's coming to us. He's knocking on our door. So the concept is, that Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Hashem sort of opens up the door of inspiration. And even if you don't want to, you have to be inspired. And people go ahead and get pushed out of their seats and they come to Shul. I said, and that's beautiful, but you don't really get so much credit for that. Because that's Hashem doing it. So the concept is Hashem said, after the Mabul, till the Mabul, Hashem said, you guys could do it, you're on your own. On the contrary, if you do everything right, you get much more schar, you're on your own. But after the Mabul, Hashem said, if the world gets so bad, I'm just going to have to open up the door of inspiration. People are just going to have to be inspired. It said, I'm going to go ahead and steer things. Okay? So either you have two choices. Either you could choose it, and I could hide, and you could choose it, and then you get more reward. Or, if things are heading too bad, I'm just going to open up the door, and you're going to have more light of Yom Kippur shining through. That's what Hashem says by the Mabul. I think the same thing is true with Mashiach. Either we're going to return to Hashem. Either it's going to be our choice, or it's going to be Hashem's going to force it. Okay? As we know, in the past couple of years, out of tens of thousands of Jews have made Aliyah from France. Tens of thousands. Is it because necessarily so many Jews in France just decided to connect to Hashem and join and go to Israel? I don't think so. A lot of it had to do with they wouldn't have a choice. So the concept over here is that it could come more in a natural way, and it could come more of a way of Hashem opening up the door of Yom Kippur. And obviously we want it to come more coming from us. But that's part of the concept over here, that we see the light of Mashiach is coming through when people are inspired and brought to the land of Israel. That's another concept.
I was gonna say, you said something about in the year 6,000, as if it's like the Shabbat is coming of the 7,000 years from the time of creation to now. Now I'm wondering if now is like Erev Shabbat.
Erev Shabbat. Oh.
It's before it begins, and we celebrate Shabbat. The
There
night.
you go.
So
And there's a concept in Erev Shabbat, you're allowed to bring in Shabbat early.
Even better.
You make early Shabbos. And there are people who say that they make early Shabbos to inspire God that he should make an early Shabbos as well. There's a concept about that. Making an early Shabbos. Because you see that you're allowed to add on to Shabbos. And yes, the Chazal do say that 6,000 years is the world that goes in a cycle, and 6,000 years is the year of Mashiach.
Mashiach will come on Erev Shabbat.
That's what it says. And if of course it come early. Okay.
I heard like it was gonna like if Mashiach comes through, that there's gonna be like 1,000 years of peace or something like that.
Oh, 1,000 years, that's probably 6,000 to 7,000.
Will it happen though? Will it happen like in a cycle though? Will it happen again? Like will Mashiach come again or like that's the last time? Because there's gonna be like a war or something after.
It's the last time. Mashiach comes now, it's the last time. It's the last
so what will
time.
happen after?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good question. There's Tchias Mason, that much we don't know so much about. I don't know so much about. Okay. Okay. I want to go into one more piece here. That's really in chapter 12 in the Rambam. I didn't hand it out. I'm going to go hand out a few then. I want to go on this last piece here on the Rambam in chapter 12. Hand out a few of them if you like.
For those who have an iPhone, go to Chabad.org.
Oh, there you go. And get it on online. Okay. Okay. I want to do two last pieces here. The Rambam says that in the Mashiach age, you shouldn't think anything will change from the way of the world. Anything will be different in the natural course of the world. The world will continue to go in its regular pattern, and that which it says in Yeshaya, it says in the prophets, Vigar ze'ev im keves, v'namer im gedi, a wolf will dwell with a lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat. So it says that when Mashiach comes, the wolf is going to lie down with the lamb together. They're going to play peacefully together. And the leopard will lie down with the goat. That's what it says. It seems to imply there's going to be a peace in the world that's going to be absolutely unnatural. Okay, so he says, the Rambam says, you should know, this is just a mashal. B'chida, this is just a mashal, this is a parable, that the Jewish people will sit securely with the non-Jews that are similar, that are compared to wolves and leopards, and they will sit peacefully with the Jewish people. Okay? There will not be any stealing, there will not be any fighting. Okay? And it says also in the pasuk, "V'aryeh kabachar bakar yechel teven." It says that the lion will eat straw like an ox. He will no longer be hunt. He says that's also alluding to the nations of the world, that they will not fight any longer with the Jewish people. And the Rambam learns that actually the world will continue in its natural state. The only difference is that we're going to have peace. The nations of the world are going to recognize the Jewish people as a chosen nation. They're going to want to join with them to be part of that mission and not fight with them. They're going to want to be helpful in that mission and not fight with them. And when the pasuk says these mashalim, a wolf and a leopard, these are all a mashal, these are all parables. And he continues, that's it, that'll be the same. What do you say?
Doesn't it say that when Mashiach comes, we're not going to have Yitzhar?
Oh, that's a good question. Mashiach comes, we're not going to have Yitzhar. So that's a good question. The Rambam seems to hold not much like that. The Rambam seems to hold not much like that. That is debatable. It might be by Tchias HaMesim, the Rambam seems to hold not like that. The Rambam seems to hold it will go back to when we had a first temple, we had a Yitzhar, we had sins. However, it was easier because the nations of the world, everyone really accepted us and would have fear from us and understands that God's the real king. That's the Rambam words. And he says the rabbis taught us, there's no difference in between the current age and the Moshe Mashiach. Ela Shibun Malchus, except for the subjugation of the nations, and that's it. Shibun Malchus Bavad, except for the subjugation of the nations. This is in the Mishnah of Ein Bain in Megillah. There's no difference except for Sheikh Malchus. Okay. I want to say even one more thing the Rambam actually says. I think he says it elsewhere, and then I want to end with the last piece. The Rambam says elsewhere, he asks, why is it that Hashem made it in our generation, in our days, Christianity became very popular. Okay? Why is it that nowadays most of the world, I think, civilized world, follows the Torah to some extent and has some sort of diluted version or a little changed version of the Torah? Whereas in the beginning of the world, everyone was following pagan religions that had nothing to do with the Torah. You hear the question? How did this come to be? Very good question to ask on a New Year's Shiur in this season. Why is it that Christianity became so popular? So, it's a very good question. Even in America, most of the law in America, we spoke about our Shiur this past week. We spoke about suicide. And we said, what type of business is that suicide's legal in America? It doesn't make any sense. It's straight from the Torah. We spoke about it. Most of the civilized world, the law is built on the Torah. And it comes from Yashar, it comes from the Torah. So the Rambam says that in the olden days, in the time of the of the Avodah Zarah, there actually was no right and wrong. Do you know that when you served the Avodah Zarah, there was nothing you couldn't do? That was not part of the religion. There's nothing you couldn't do in serving Avodah Zarah. No laws. Avodah Zarah was just a way to connect the spiritual forces to manipulate what you want. That was Avodah Zarah. You didn't owe anything to Avodah Zarah. You didn't owe him anything. You got from him, you didn't owe anything back. There was no rules on Avodah Zarah. Okay? But when the Goyim started to accept the Torah, even in their diluted forms of Yashka and all these things, they now, all of a sudden, these principles are there, a right and a wrong, a world to come. All these concepts of morality, of there is a right and a wrong, do not kill, do not steal, whatever concept it is, these are all coming from the Torah. Hashem wanted to lead the Jewish people closer to the age of Mashiach, closer to the recognition of a God. And they definitely say that, right? The most people in the world died more from atheists than anything else. If there's and the exceptions of a religion, even if it's a religion that's not true, it's only partially true, still brings the world closer to the realization of Hashem. And to them, that's going to lead to a Mashiach. So here we see another thing. I think we actually opened up a lot of things of looking at the world differently. How we look at the world differently. And many people, they wouldn't know what's going on pointing to Mashiach. But we look around, and we're opening our eyes here today, and we're seeing so much of the things that we talk about to have Mashiach come is beginning nowadays, of the world recognizing of one God. A concept of right and wrong. That's something that's being introduced and being strengthened, or it started a long time ago already, but it's being strengthened in the world. The concept of the Jewish people returning to the land of Israel, something that's being restored. Concept of women becoming more equal to men is becoming stronger in the world. Many other things. The concept of naturally information being able to spread quickly, being able to move places quickly, this is also becoming more of a natural way, pointing in this direction. Unbelievable. Fine. I guess I'll stop with the last thing over here in the Rambam. The last thing in the Rambam here is very surprising. Last thing the Rambam ends up, this is the last words of the Rambam in all of the Rambam Sefer. These are the last words of the Rambam. Let's go ahead and talk about this last Rambam. First, I'll ask a question. If I asked you, why is it that we're supposed to wait for Mashiach? What is it that we're supposed to yearn for? What are we yearning for? What would you answer that question? What are we supposed to be waiting for? Okay, we want the whole world to recognize that there's a God. Okay, we want that. You know, many people, it's like a sports team. You want everyone to see your team win. That's what you want, everyone to see your team win. Or your heroes. You want everyone to see. If you go for one guy who's a wrestler, whatever it is, you want everyone to you know what I mean? You want everyone to think that it's the most awesome thing. Okay, that's one. We're on Hashem's team, and we want everyone to get everyone, especially those people who talk with tremendous chutzpah, and they act in a way that declares there's no God. We want to show them. Okay, that's one thing. I like that one. Anything else? Peace. Okay, why should we want peace?
I wouldn't for one piece.
Why do we want peace? Okay, very good. Simple explanation. People want peace. Very good. Okay, that's what I would say. Any other suggestions?
Quality of the Chaim.
Quality of life. Okay, quality of life. Okay, that's interesting. Think about that one. If that's something that's okay, that's interesting. I don't know if that would be the absolute highest motive for waiting a Mashiach. I'm not sure if that would be the highest motive, but that definitely is an important point. Okay, what do you say? Beis Hamikdash. Why do you want Beis Hamikdash? Being close to Hashem. Okay, fine. Okay, so okay, let's look at the Rambam here. The last Rambam here. The Rambam says.
What pair?
The last page on page 12. The last Rambam in all of Rambam. Actually, it's not on the last page of your piece. It's actually on the page before.
11?
Page 3 in the booklet.
I don't have, so one pair.
Parak 12.
Pair 12, one portion.
Okay. Parak 12, Mishnah Hey, Halacha Hey. Actually, Halacha Dalet. Let's look at this Rambam. It's a famous Rambam and became famous from a song. Okay, let's see what the Rambam says here. The Rambam says, the sages, like the sages and the prophets did not yearn for the days of Mashiach. Lo kedei sheyishlatu al kol ha'olam, not in order that we should have a domain over the entire world, domination over the whole entire world. V'lo kedei sheyudu ba'akim, not in order that we should rule over the Gentiles. V'lo kedei sheyisnu aseh amim, not in order that the nations should exalt us. V'lo kedei la'achav lishtos, not in order to eat and drink and celebrate. L'smayach. Elo kedei shu pinuyim ba'torah u'b'chachmasa. Rather that we should be free to involve ourselves in Torah and wisdom. V'lo yeh lahem nogesh umabel kedei sheyizku l'chaim haba. In order that we shouldn't have any pressure or disturbance, in order that we should be able to merit the world to come. That's what Rambam says. We're waiting for Mashiach in order that we shouldn't have all of our pressures and disturbances, in order that we should study Torah and merit the world to come. This Rambam is absolutely astonishing. We daven the whole entire Rosh Hashanah davening, we pray for Mashiach, and we're praying for a world that the world should know that Hashem is the King of the world. That's what we're praying for the whole time. Here the Rambam says, what they're all waiting for is to have free of disturbances, in order that we should be able to merit the world to come. Pach. That's what the Rambam says here. This question bothered me very much, and that's the way the Rambam goes ahead, and he ends off saying, in that era there will be nor famine, nor war, nor envy, or competition. For good will flow in abundance, and all delight will be freely available as dust. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. That's it. He says the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem as the waters cover the ocean bed. That's the Rambam ends off. That's the Rambam ends off. Very fascinating. I'm not going to even discuss and answer this. It's a good question. This question bothers me very much. How the Rambam could say this. It seems to be very different to everything I was taught. Very different than what we daven for. But this is what the Rambam says, something to think about. The world will be covered with the knowledge of God like the water covers the ocean bed. I heard a nice pshat on this, that if you want to get something, okay, you cover something with, let's say, rocks. Okay? You don't get every single inch. Okay? If you want to get every single inch, every single corner, you cover with water. Water reaches every single corner. Okay? You fill the cup with water, every corner of the water is going to be filled with water. Someone said an unbelievable line. I'm going to end with this line. A rabbi said an unbelievable line. It was $1 million line. It brought everything down to being practical. He said, when Mashiach comes, he said 2 points. But he said, when Mashiach comes, he says, you're going to turn on your computer and you go on the internet and you're going to type in anti-Semitism and it's going to say an extinct notion, da-da-da, and you're going to check the whole computer. There's not going to be one site with any bad word against Hashem and against the Jewish people. Not one blog on the whole entire internet and not one post of anything negative of God.
No one follower.
Isn't that unbelievable? That was the way of bringing it down to the bottom line. Bringing it down to the bottom line. And he also says, Hashem says in the Navi, Hashem says, I will go ahead and console every single ache and pain. And our rabbis tell us that there will be not one ache and pain that we ever felt throughout the whole entire Galus that we're going to moan about. It's going to be transformed into joy. That every single ache and pain that we ever had throughout the whole entire Galus, we're going to not just forget about it, it's not the right word, we're going to be consoled, we're going to see how it was to our benefit, and there is not one ache or pain that we ever experienced throughout the whole entire exile that is going to be bothering us. That's the vision that the prophets describe God, and that Rabbi Recline thought that was a beautiful mashal to inspire us and bring it down to our own words of what it could look like. Okay, Yashikach.
Which is God.
Yeah.
I want to say the mind Mine is about is fascinating because if you take the gematria, then you're them, right?
I'm not ready to eat
It comes up to 90, which is tzaddik. Which is
Oh.
righteousness.
Mem, Yud, what's that?
Mem.
Mem. So what is it with Mashiach? What is it, Mem?
Mem, Yud, Mem is 90.
Mem. Oh,
90 represents righteousness.
righteousness. There you go. There you go.
So
Okay, Yashakayach.
it's a word.
Hazak Baruch.